Good morning, everyone, and welcome to sunny San Diego, California, headquarters for LendSure Mortgage, the non-QM lender of choice. Yes, it's 75 degrees today in San Diego. Our weathermen are still bored because it never rains. It's just 70 and sunny every day. So welcome. Today, as you know, we're going to talk about tapping into what I call a misunderstood or slightly misunderstood market, and how you can glean some more opportunity from this market, and we can all participate in some more revenue in 2019. So the agenda today, we'll cover a few things. Speakers are myself, James Voisard, call me Jim, and I have with me an expert. Her name is Annie Huang, and joining us a little bit later will be our Director of Underwriting, Mr. Steve Mulliff. On the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about who is LendSure, what do we do, the overview of this, what I call the misunderstood market opportunity, the fundamentals of this business. We'll cover those with Annie. We'll talk about some real-world loan scenarios, loans that we've actually closed and funded. We'll talk about our guidelines. What is a foreign national guideline at LendSure? What kind of credit do you need? What kind of income do you need? We'll talk about that on questions and answers. Please submit your questions to the question tab, and at the end we will have a period of Q&A for any and all that want to ask questions. So again, welcome. We'll get started. A little bit about LendSure. As I said, we're headquartered here in San Diego. All facilitation of loans and underwriting is done here. We are opening centers. We have opened a center in Ohio. Rhode Island and Florida is pending. They'll be open very soon. LendSure has been doing the non-QM, call it the gig, serving this space since June of 2015. We're lending in 26 states and growing. Management team's been together a long time. We've been through the ups and downs, just like all of you have been through the ups and downs. So we know how it works. What do? We focus primarily on the alternative document loans. In the old days, some people call that the Alt-A borrower. We see lots of clean credit deals in there. We see good size loan size. And we see people with lots of assets. As I said, we serve the A paper borrowers that you see every day that for some reason are on the edge and they just fall out of Fannie Mae. Our average FICO scores are plus 700. LTV on the last securitization was under 70. And the last bullet says we do foreign nationals, so today we'll speak specifically to that program. What don't we do? We don't do conventional loans. We don't do retail. We're strictly wholesale. No Fannies, no Freddies, no FHAs. Briefly on our first securitization, we have another one pending. I don't need to read all of that. I will make a note on the average loan to value at 65. Doesn't look very risky when you look at that number as an average. Our new securitization, the LTV will be slightly higher than that. You see a lot of bank statement loans in that pool of loans that has been traded. The last bullet point talks about 65% of our volume are loans that we do for the Alt-A type borrowers. Now on the foreign national, here's a slide that talks about how much the average purchase price is on a foreign national versus a domestic buyer. It's roughly $50,000 higher, so more volume for all of us. Sales volume in 2017, 153 billion. I'm going to speculate that the 121 billion was a 2016 number. How many loans is 153 billion in a market that's growing? So next year in 2019 it'll be even bigger. How many loans is that? How many opportunities are out there for you and for LendSure and for me and for your borrowers? It's a big number. It's over 250,000 loans. Huge market, a little bit misunderstood. So we're going to talk about some of the misunderstanding and how we can capitalize on doing more of these loans. Our program, the foreign national home buyer, some stats I just said, 121 million is over 250,000 loans. 8% of buyers of existing homes, foreign nationals make up for 8%. That's a big number when you figure that there's 2.5 million purchases done in this country every year. So lots of loan opportunity.
The most important thing to understand a foreign national program is to understand the difference determine all kinds of visas or residency status they hold. For example, is the borrower a permanent resident alien? This kind of borrower also has a green card. Green card is the same as permanent resident alien. The next one is non-permanent resident alien, which is categorized by different kind of visa status. For example, L1 is one of non-permanent resident alien. They work in the U.S. Sometimes it's an international company, so their employees hold L1 visas in the United States. The next one is foreign national. Foreign nationals are typically B1, B2 traveling tourist visas, and they're here for a short term of time. They're not here to work. So it's really important to understand what kind of visa they hold and what kind of residency they have. As you can see, we have a lot of inquiries about ITIN program. So ITIN is a card for the buyers to report taxes to the U.S. government. This is not a social security number. This number usually starts with 971. So that's how you differentiate an ITIN borrower versus foreign national or green card or non-permanent resident alien. There's one status that we don't do here, which is the EAD, which stands for Employment Authorization Card. That is the one type category that we don't touch. And as you can see here, that the visa status that I just mentioned for foreign national B1, B2 is the tourist visa. That's the most we have seen at LendSure here today. Most purchases that we do here are B1, B2. So they have a valid passport that's not expiring within 6 months and a visa. And when they're for people who's in countries, for example, Canada, UK, United Kingdom, or South Korea, they're under the visa waiver program, which means they do not need a visa to be here. As long as they have a valid passport, they can do a loan with us.
Thank you, Annie. So as you can see, we've done hundreds and hundreds of these loans to date. So we've got some experience around the product, and we understand the buyer, we understand the needs. We have account executives that have done these loans. They can help walk you through the process, pick up your phone and call them. Here's a couple highlights. Misunderstandings: domestic credit score, U.S. credit score is not required. The LTVs, purchase or refinance, no difference, 75%. Bear in mind that most of the foreign national buyers, these are second homes or investors. They're not owner occupied. Remember, they live in another country. Income verification letters for countries without tax returns. We'll talk about a couple of loans, how we handle that. And the last bullet, foreign assets can be used for the reserve requirement. Yes, they got money parked somewhere else in another country. There will be a seasoning requirement to that, but we will use it. Verifying foreign credit, not that difficult. 3 trades, that's what the highlight says. 2-year history, that's it. Any combination below is allowed. So all you need is 3 trade lines over 2 years, and that will meet our credit requirement. Very open, wide open, good policy. Credit reference letter requirements. We can use one letter from an internationally known financial institution, somebody like HSBC, who is very large bank. Bullet point on the bottom that talks about currency. I'm talking about seasoning assets must be converted to U.S. dollars, assets or down payment. Need that to be documented, signed, and dated by a certified translator. Annie, who handles the fees for the translation charge?
The borrower or the broker?
Anybody but LendSure. So if we got to translate documents, that's going to be a closing fee. As you can tell, all documents must be translated into English so that our underwriters can understand what's going on. Verifying assets.
Yes.
Steve Muller for Underwriters just joined us. He may want to make a comment on this. If not, I'll do it.
So right now we're making some adjustments on the guidelines. We're going to have 6 months of PITI reserves for the subject on qualifying U.S. credit, foreign credit, non-permanent, permanent resident aliens, 12 months PIT reserves. We're looking to have that reduced on an upcoming guideline change. So look for a change on that within the next 30 days. We do allow gift funds on this product as well. So at a 65% LTV, it is possible to get gifts. What we need on our gifts is a letter confirming the relationship, and then either a copy of the wire stating the gifter or a copy of the check with the gifter's name on it, certified funds. Once again, we can season these in a foreign account, but what we must have is they must go through a U.S. banking institution, not directly to the close. So what that does is basically puts a responsibility for the incoming assets to go through a banking system, and then they can be transferred to the escrow from there. As Jim mentioned before, assets in foreign accounts, as long as they're translated and we have the seasoning on those, they can be used as reserves.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Verifying foreign income. I see two important points on this slide. Talking about the foreign national, how we verify income for a salaried wage earner, and how we verify income for a self-employed. In neither case do we just wing it, we have to verify income. I don't need to read the slide, but we take a pretty progressive approach to income on foreign nationals. Steve, any comments on that?
Well, the key here, like on any loan that we do, is we really want to make sure that we do have an understanding that the borrower is going to be able to repay the loan. So we try to use a reasonability test on that. If it's an employer that we can usually find these days electronically, most employers, even foreign ones, whether you're self-employed or you're working for someone, we can find their websites. We can determine if that business looks to be there and operating. A lot of times we seem to see a lot more self-employed foreign nationals than we do wage earners. However, we are able to contact those companies. A lot of times we do spot check to make sure. We will make a call on occasion. Obviously, if there's a language barrier, that's something we don't do 100% of the time. But we do verify these via email, which people do respond to. And once again, it's a reasonability test. I know it's difficult to verify an employer and what they're purportedly making in their home countries, but we do reasonable due diligence on that. We also believe that people that come to the U.S. that are purchasing second homes or investors here, they're not putting larger down payments in order to just buy a place here and not make the payments. So our LTV does cover a little bit of that risk on these products, but we do try to independently verify the income. On self-employed borrowers, same type thing usually, and we haven't had any pushback. I've looked at loans from basically every continent now at this point, besides I guess Antarctica or something, but we've been able to get confirmation from the CPA or whoever does their accounting there, and they provide us documentation on what that person has received in their own home currency over the course of the last 2 years. So it doesn't seem to have been a big issue getting meeting those requirements, and at this point we haven't had much pushback on that piece of the program.
Okay. On that slide, in the last couple of months in Florida, we've probably closed, I'm going to round off, 20 loans in Florida for foreign nationals, majority of those being self-employed. Average purchase price between 200 and 300. That's just one state, so big opportunity. Here's some loans we've actually closed. This is a loan that one of Annie's earlier loans that funded this year. $400,000 purchase. You can see a large down payment, 40%. He's been here for 6 months, no credit in the United States. So works for a foreign company, no USA income. How do we qualify the loan? Simply used an employer letter. Very easy, very quick, very fast underwrite. Use Singapore credit, close the loan, everybody moved on. And if you want to talk to this other loan right here, scenario B.
This one is a 300,000 purchase loan amount. 55 LTV. There's no FICO in the United States. No social security number. Fell out from a bank with appraisal ready. So we are the lender that can take other lenders' AMC appraisals and close this loan within 7 business days. As for second homes or owner-occupied properties per trade requirement, but if it's investment property, when you came in with appraisal, we can try to do it in 3 days.
For those of you that get loans from realtors, when they fall out, accepting appraisals from other lenders will keep you in the driver's seat, keeps the deal alive, keeps your source happy with you. It's a very good niche for LendSure. Scenario C, U.S. citizen that works and lives in China. So we got an American that lives in China, find an SFR, good scores, purchase price, you can see that, low LTV. She did not file a U.S. tax return on her Chinese income. We require income. So how do we solve this? What do we do to qualify this loan? We use what we call our debt service coverage ratio program, where we're looking at the property's rent or market rent versus the loan's PITI. What's the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance? If there's a relationship that the payments are about the same, in this case it was slightly above 80%, so a little bit on the negative side, we still are able to do the loan. We do not calculate a DTI in those situations. The DSCR program can be used for any borrower. I urge you to talk to your account executives about that program. Foreign national B1, B2 visa holder, no score in the United States, $600,000 purchase. In this case, the borrower had enough for the down payment, but did not have enough money to meet our reserve requirements, which is how many months, Annie? 12?
16 months.
16. So that's quite a bit of money. In this case, we solved that little problem by adding just a quarter to the rate to waive the reserve requirement. We did it because it was a low-risk loan with 30% down payment. Solution-oriented lender, that's who we are. The last one we'll talk about is a B1, B2 foreign national refinance, taking cash out of an investor. 50 LTV on this one. It's a waterfront property which was purchased with all cash this year. There were no reserves available. What did we use? We have a rule. LendSure can use cash out to meet reserve requirements. Not all lenders can do that. Very good niche for us. Deal killers. We'll let Annie talk to this slide because she knows what can kill a deal.
So the first most important thing is do not have your borrower wire cash to close directly from a foreign country to escrow. LendSure requires the assets in a U.S. financial institution at least 30 to 60 days, depends on the LTV. Secondly, when you submit a loan to us, please check the 1003 and the purchase contract. All are the same information. For example, do not submit a 1003 showing that this is investment when we get the purchase contract that shows it's signed as a primary residence. We will kill the deal. And then thirdly, please make sure your borrower is not from one of the countries on the sanction list on United States government website. Always check before you waste too much time on it.
We not only do just foreign nationals, we do our standard programs. That's our super prime. That program is for our best borrower, highest credit standards, good down payments. These loans can be done with as little as 12 months of bank statements with rates starting in the 4s. Talk to your account executive about that. The rates are very aggressive. The LendSure Expanded is a program that allows people with shorter and less credit scores. We allow a few credit dings on these borrowers. That means the car's got a couple of dings. It doesn't mean the car's been crashed and off the road. Good program. Talk to your AE about that. Only too much reserves. A couple of things about what makes us different. We get this question all the time, Steve. People, when we're talking to brokers, why are you different than the other guy? The first thing that comes to my mind is always that bullet point number 1. We do the underwrite of the income on these loans up front, usually on day 1, day 2 at the most. We get an answer back to the loan officer and to the broker within 48 hours. So you know what income you're working with. We know what the DTI is. We're not going to wait 2 weeks and then surprise you with DTI news that's derogatory or not going to, not going to qualify your deal. Full approval, once it gets to underwriting, is 48 to 72 hours. Funding time, Andy mentioned earlier, we can do loans in as little as 7 days. I wouldn't promise that on every loan, but we can get there, and that's a TRID minimum. We are a common sense lender. We're always looking for ways to say yes to a deal with offsetting, what we call offsetting penalties. Are there extra assets? Is there a strong LTV? We look at those. My final comment before we go to Q&A is originating foreign national borrowers. I get that question. Where do you find them at? I would start, and I hear this a lot, realtors deal with these people first. Know your realtor community. Tell them you have a good foreign national product, and originate loans starting with your realtor friends. Okay, Q&A. Rose?
Great. This question is from Michael. He asks, I have a borrower with an ITIN number and they want to purchase an owner-occupied property. Can this be done? 75 LTV, minimum credit score is? Thanks.
I can probably answer that one. So the key on that is whenever you move to owner-occupied properties, it's verifying the income. So if you're on an ITIN and we can verify the income, we've got a program actually coming out specifically for the ITIN, but it would have to be U.S.-based income in order to do it, and we have done those before.
Okay. Related to that, can I do a bank statement loan with an ITIN number?
Yes.
Okay, great. And any extra flexibility on income and LTV for Canadians? That question is from Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn, that's a good question. Dealing with Canadians, it's easier from the underwriting perspective because they're very similar to how we review U.S. citizens, i.e. we can get a Canadian report, we can get the Canadian income documentation. Obviously, it's all in English. So if the loan makes sense, we can expand on the LTVs. So that would be a lot has to do is, does he have a business in the U.S. too? Is the business one here, one in Canada? All the other factors that go into making the lending decision are taken into account. Once again, the only difficulty we have is that we really don't have ability to process and verify income outside the country like we do on U.S. tax returns. But yes, that's something we've looked at, and recently we did a like $1.5 million high-rise condo downtown San Diego to a Canadian citizen. So I don't remember the LTV off the top of my head, but it was outside the standard foreign national program.
Okay, great. Housekeeping question that I've gotten a couple of times. Yes, we will be sending out a copy of the presentation as well as a copy of the recording for everybody attending. So I'll send that out within an hour after the presentation. Do the trade lines have to be United States?
I can answer that question. No, they don't. What we're looking, well, it's interesting when we say U.S. The idea is it's something that maybe we can look up, verify online that they're actually a credit provider. So they don't have to be U.S. Credit lines. They can be foreign as well.
Okay. Yan Ping has a question. Is a good standing letter considered to be a reference letter, part one, and then, or just bank statement with 2 years history good enough?
If we're talking about, I'm assuming we're talking about income on that piece. So I guess it's a two-part question there. If we're talking about income, we're looking for the 2 years validation from a third party, whether it be your CPA or your employer. So when I say good standing, I'm assuming that that's it could be used for a few things. As it regards to assets, that's pretty basic. Good standing as it relates to foreign trade lines, as long as we can validate through the internet that it appears to be a lending institution, then we will usually take what's provided from that lender.
Okay, great. Carl asks, does the no owner occupied rule for purchase money transaction also apply to refinance, or will you do an owner-occupied primary residence on a refi?
Is this on the standard program? The only primary residence is only for our other programs. If you're talking about a foreign national, it's only on an investor or second home. So our standard guidelines would apply to that particular scenario under our other platforms.
Monica has a question here. Her simple question was, can you purchase and close a deal under an LLC name?
Yes, you can.
We see it every week. Get that request often.
Okay, great. Any prepayment penalties? That question is from Wanda.
The answer is yes. On non-owners, there is a prepayment penalty, and there is a pricing adjustment for that. You can actually get reduced pricing with a little longer prepay. It is possible to eliminate the prepay based on pricing too. Really want to have an understanding of what kind of loan we're doing, because obviously we don't want the loans to pay off early. The idea is to keep the loans and continue to receive that revenue stream. So,
okay, great. James asks, can you use an international credit report for trade lines?
I've seen them before. It depends. Once again, any documentation we get in, we have to be able to independently get a comfort level around. So if we have an international credit report and you're looking at, trade lines such as HSBC, and there's contact information, if we chose to contact them, that's something we would definitely look at.
Great. And Sergio asks, why do the funds need to be here for 30 to 60 days?
I know there was one point in the slide. The actual requirement is that they have to be at least in a U.S. institution 30 days prior to the close. We say we do allow the seizing of the funds in the foreign institution. The main thing is, and Annie touched on it as well, is that the funds do need to come direct through a U.S. institution. That way you meet the monetary laws of the U.S. as well.
Okay. Lacey asks, do you accept an L1 visa from a client from Brazil who is self-employed and living here, going to university?
The idea is on that one, I'd have to take a look. The question is, you're still supposed to be employed on the foreign national program. Off the top of my head, if you're not employed, then the question really comes down to what is the cash flow of the property. That might be one where you'd look at that deal on a DSCR program.
Okay. Michelle has a question specifically for Annie. I have a deal with Chinese borrowers. Will Annie speak to them if needed?
Because we don't have retail license, we're not supposed to speak to the client directly. So if it's anything else besides rates, then maybe.
Okay, great. We're going to do one or two more quick questions, and then we're going to end it for today. Do you convert assets to income or on any of your programs, or equity in real estate?
We do have an asset depletion program that any of our account executives can give you a good description on. So yes, we do have that program. It is used. There's certain requirements on it, but yes, we have an asset depletion program. So I hope that answered that.
Do you have any other questions from the one submitted before that you'd like to address?
Amy asked a question regarding eligible property types. We lend on 1 to 4 unit residential here in America. And as Andy and Steve both mentioned, on a true foreign national, that's going to be a second home or an investor. So 1 to 4.
Okay, great. And then final question, unless Jim, you have others, is do you accept EAC cards for the bank statement program? That question is from Martha.
EAC or EAD? What's EAC?
Employment authorization card.
Yeah.
No, no. We don't do EADs.
Or Cs.
Are non-warrantable condos acceptable for the foreign national program?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. So there's a couple of other questions. Carla wants to know about her account executive. I will get back to you individually on that after I look that up for you. And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to reach out to your LendSure account executive. They will work with you to get any answers or scenarios answered. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we will be sending out the presentation and the recording to you shortly.
Thanks for your time. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.